Hello there everyone, this is Brother Birch. In this video I'm going to be walking through your, for test 2, this practice 2.1, okay? And it's the flipping a coin one. So Mike's teacher told his class that a flipped coin lands on heads half the time, and so you're going to test out to see if you actually flip a coin 100 times, how many were heads, how many were tails, okay? So let's dive into this. It says start by copying the standard template that we use for tests. Okay, that's a typo. It's for tests. And then change up the header to make sure that it has the right one. So I'm going to copy that and say Emacs test 2. All right, so I would change this to say, like flip a coin, and then make sure that you update that as well. And then your name, of course. All right, and then I'm not going to worry about the brief description, but here is your template for this guy. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Notice here in the template that it started off with our random number generator. Okay, this is really important for this project. So let's head down here below this. First things first, we're going to say how many trials there are going to be. So I'm going to say int number trials equals, and let's go ahead and call prompt number of trials. Okay, so we're going to have to write that. So let me come up here and I'll say int prompt number of, oops, number of trials. Okay, and up here I'll go ahead and say int number, cout, and looking at this it says how many coin flips for this experiment. Copy that, and then cin number. Okay, and then we'll return that number. Okay, so int prompt number of trials, that's good to go. I just need to put a comment block up there. So let's right click, paste, remove that line, move that line, and then I'll say prompt number of trials will get number from user for trials, trial count. Okay, so that should be good to go. Main needs to get updated, this comment block does. So I'll just say main will start and run the program. Okay, so we got our number of trials here. Next thing, we need to actually perform the experiment. So I'll say int number heads equals, and we're going to call a function called experiment, perform experiment. We'll pass in the number of trials that we need to perform that experiment. Okay, so I'm going to copy that and paste it right here. Okay, this one is going to be, let's see, perform experiment. Okay, flip the coins. Alright, and then in here, I'm going to call it perform experiment. And we're going to pass in the int number of trials. Okay. You know what, just to make it a little bit more concise, I'll just say int number. Okay. And then in here, let me delete some of these lines of code. So we're going to return the number of heads. So right here I'll say num heads, I'll say int num heads equals 0, and then I'll say for int I equals 0, while I is less than number of trials, I plus plus, oops, and then if flipped heads than num heads. Okay, so one last function that I'm wanting to stick in here is flipped heads. Okay, so let's go, I'll just put it right here, copy that and paste it. So we have another function set up here. Looks like I got a squiggly in there, I don't know how that happened. Okay, this one will be flipped heads, return bool of head flip or not. Okay, flipped heads, and we don't have any parameters for this one. And for our return, whoops, that needs to be a bool. Okay, for our return, we're just going to say random. We'll get a random number modulus 2 is equal to 0. Okay, so if it's even, then we'll say it's heads. If it's odd, we'll say it's not heads. Okay, so I have that. So let me look here. So we start up in main. We call prompt number of trials. Okay, it outputs this, and these are types in whatever they want to, and then we'll pass that number into perform experiment. Perform experiment will loop through however many times, so 100 times for this example, and it'll get a random number, check if it's even or not. If it's even, it'll return true for heads, it'll increment heads, and then we'll return that num heads to right here. Okay, last thing we need to do is just display that. Okay, so let's see here. So flipped heads. Let's actually say, let's call a function called display here. So I'm gonna remove that, and I'll call display number heads, and then I'll say number trials minus number heads to get tails. Okay, and then we'll return 0. Okay, so last one, let me copy that and paste. Okay, this one's going to be called display. We'll output to user the results of experiments. Okay, we're going to have an int number heads and an int number tails, and it's going to be void. We're not going to return anything with this, it's just going to display. So void display. Okay, I'll remove some of this stuff. Return. Alright, so we have those. We're just going to say, we're going to copy this guy. So I'll say cout. There were, end that quote with a new line. Substitute that for number heads. Okay, and then I'll copy this whole thing. And whoops, I just messed something up here. Okay, I pasted in the wrong spot. And then I'll paste. There we go. And there were number tails. Alright, so that should do it for our display here. So I'm going to hit Control XS, Control XC, and let's compile this. G++. Alright, error expected semicolon before cout in display. Let's look at display. Must have missed something. Go down. Oh, both lines need a semicolon. Alright, save, compile. Good, worked out. Alright, number of coin flips for experiment, let's say 100. It says there are 44 heads and 56 tails. Well, that looks pretty good. Let's test this out. Testbed CS124, practice 21, and then we called this test2 practice 1.cpp. Okay, they all passed. Okay, Hopefully this helps answer any questions if you guys had them. But if you have more, just let me know.